Tomo News presents America's Worst Accidental Shootings.
9-year-old girl kills gun instructor with an Uzi. A 39-year-old shooting instructor from Nevada has died after a 9-year-old girl accidentally shot him in the head as he taught her how to fire a submachine gun. The accident occurred around 10 a.m. at an outdoor shooting range known as Bullets and Burgers in Dolan Springs as the 9-year-old girl was receiving instructions on how to fire an Uzi. The instructor was standing next to the girl while showing her how to use the Uzi. After helping the girl get into the proper shooting stance, the girl fired off a single shot. That's when the instructor switched the gun into full automatic mode. As the girl pulled the trigger, the recoil made her lose control of the weapon, accidentally shooting the instructor in the head. The instructor was airlifted to the hospital, where he later died of his injuries. Police say the girl and her parents were passing through Dolan Springs on vacation.
Aubrey Peters, a 16-year-old high school junior from Noblesville, Indiana, was killed on Sunday night in what police believe was an accidental shooting by a friend while the pair were socializing in his home with two other young men. In a completely avoidable tragedy, 20-year-old Jacob Travis McDaniel is believed to have shot Peters while fooling around with firearms shortly before midnight. One of the men present told police McDaniel was showing off to his friends with a shotgun and a handgun. He is said to have tried to get Peters to take the handgun, but she refused to touch it. He then removed the clip from the gun and flicked the safety. He then pointed it at Peters, forgetting the semi-automatic gun still had a bullet in the chamber. He then fired, shooting off a single round. Peters clutched her chest and asked, "What just happened?" before falling to the ground. The witness told police McDaniel wanted the others to say that the gun had fallen from a table, causing it to fire accidentally. Police arrived shortly after the shooting and attempted to revive the teen until paramedics arrived. They were unsuccessful. She was taken to St. Vincent Indianapolis Hospital, where she was pronounced dead. Aubrey Peters was lauded for her bravery in 2010 for helping save the lives of two young kids who fell into a frozen water reservoir behind their home. Friends and family paid their respects at a memorial set up on the shore of Morse Lake. McDaniel has been charged with reckless homicide and pointing a weapon.
The moment a clumsy cop shoots himself in an elevator. Daryl Jewett, a 25-year-old veteran of the Erlanger, Ohio Police Department, injured himself with a handgun after a dinner date with his wife Friday night. For some reason, the off-duty officer draws his weapon while in the elevator with his wife. Jewett then has trouble reholstering the handgun, and the next thing he knows is he's caught lead. Now back this up, let's try to figure out what happened. Jewett nails a couple of cop stereotypes here, a box of donuts in one hand and his gun in the other. The most likely scenario seems to be that Jewett was looking for the holster and accidentally discharged the firearm. The bullet entered straight into his belly, sending the officer to the floor. His wife immediately called 911 for help, but this isn't the only possibility for what happened. Cincinnati captain Michael John said the round ricocheted in the elevator before striking Jewett in the stomach. However, it's more likely that a hollow point bullet would have fragmented upon hitting the steel wall. So Jewett may have been struck by one of the ricocheting fragments. One last possibility that we haven't explored is that Jewett saw his own reflection. A black man with a gun and his police training took over from there. Did you just laugh at a man getting shot? Come on, guys.
Toddler shoots dad and pregnant mother with one bullet. A 3-year-old boy shot his dad and very pregnant mother with a single bullet Saturday afternoon in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Longtime couple Monique Viescas and Justin Reynolds were reportedly living in a motel room with their 2 kids, a 3-year-old boy and a 2-year-old girl, when the little boy reached into his mother's purse to grab her iPod. Instead, he grabbed her handgun and accidentally fired it, striking both his parents in one go. The bullet first hit Justin in the right butt cheek, and then it traveled out his hip and struck 8 months pregnant Monique in her arm. Justin told reporters he slowed his girlfriend's bleeding with a towel while he called 911. Both parents were taken to the hospital. Justin has since been released, and Monique is reportedly in stable condition. An Albuquerque Police Department spokesperson says the couple could face criminal negligence charges for not locking up their weapon with toddlers around.
2-year-old accidentally shoots and kills mom in Walmart. A 2-year-old boy accidentally killed his mother with her own gun at a Walmart in Hayden, Idaho. 29-year-old Veronica Rutledge was in the electronics section with her 2-year-old son and 3 other children on Tuesday morning. The son reached into his mom's purse and pulled out a small caliber handgun she was carrying. Unfortunately, the gun discharged and killed the mother, who had a concealed weapons permit. Authorities arrived at the scene of the shooting. The supermarket was temporarily closed while police collected evidence.
Utah elementary school teacher shoots herself in the foot, literally. Another day, another school shooting in America. Only this one is slightly different from your run-of-the-mill bullied teen takes brutal revenge on cruel classmates scenario. This shooting involved Westbrook Elementary School teacher and gun carrier Michelle Ferguson Montgomery, who was getting ready for another day of classes with her 6th graders in Taylorsville, Utah, when she decided to visit the restroom. The details of what exactly happened next are unclear, but what we do know is that at some point Miss Ferguson Montgomery's concealed carry weapon discharged. The bullet hit the toilet basin, sending ceramic shards and bullet fragments into her lower left leg. Other faculty members rushed to her aid upon hearing the gunshot, and she was taken to hospital where she is now recovering. Ferguson Montgomery holds a valid permit for a concealed carry, and Utah law does allow such weapons on campus. Nevertheless, maybe next time she should hang it on a hook when she's gotta go.
Child shoots himself in the face in freak hunting accident. A Humble, Texas boy is in critical condition after shooting himself in the chin with a shotgun while hunting with his older brother Friday afternoon. The 5-year-old boy was playing with his 11-year-old sibling outside their country home when something went horribly wrong. The 2 boys were alone at the time of the incident. Their father was still at work and their mother stepped out to a grocery store. The unsupervised pair were out hunting when the victim's older brother reportedly laid their dad's shotgun down on the ground, leaving both it and his younger brother unattended. The child told authorities he next heard a shot fire through the air, and when he turned around, he saw that his younger brother had been wounded. The older boy frantically placed his brother in the backseat of their parents' car and raced down a dirt road to the house of a neighbor known locally as Mr. Fred. Fred and his wife called 911 while another neighbor, Miss Beth, applied pressure to the child's wound. A Memorial Hermann Life Flight helicopter showed up within minutes and rushed the injured child to the Houston Medical Center, where he remains in stable but critical condition.
The little boy's got a long way to go for recovery. It's in God's hands right now. They just simply forgot one of the main lessons you learn on guns, any guns.
These are Fred's thoughts. What are yours?
3-year-old Detroit boy fatally shot by 11-year-old. An 11-year-old boy has been charged with manslaughter after he shot a 3-year-old boy. The older boy was visiting his father at a home in Detroit's East Side. The victim was identified on a GoFundMe page as Elijah Walker. It's currently unknown if or in what way Elijah may have been related to the boy who shot him. According to Detroit police, as the 2 children played inside the house, the older boy found a gun in a bedroom closet. The older child then reportedly tossed the weapon out of the bedroom window, and both kids then went out to the yard to play. In the yard, the older child reportedly retrieved the gun, and the 2 boys apparently began some sort of game. Authorities say the older child then took the gun and got inside a parked car in front of the house, possibly as part of the game the children were playing. At around 1:40 p.m. on Monday, the 3-year-old followed the older child into the car. The gun fired and the toddler was hit in the face. The boy was pronounced dead on arrival at hospital. The 11-year-old has been charged with manslaughter, specifically death by weapon aimed with intent but without malice, and using a firearm during a felony. The charges come despite police calling the incident an accidental shooting. Wayne County Detroit prosecutor Kim Worthy said in a statement, "I cannot remember a time when we have charged someone so young with taking a life. Very unfortunately and very tragically, the alleged facts in this case demanded it." Who do you think is responsible for this death? An 11-year-old kid irresponsibly playing with a cool toy? Or whichever adult left a loaded gun in an unsecured location in a home with children?
An 18-year-old woman was shot to death by a friend in Colorado after hiding in a closet as part of a prank. Pramila Lal was at her home with her friend and 2 others, including her brother, at the time. She got the idea to hide in the closet and scare the others, but when she came out, 21-year-old friend and gun nut Nerek Gallery opened fire. They then rushed her to the hospital, but it was too late as she died an hour later. Police said little of the incident, only that the gunman was charged with crimes unrelated to the shooting.
Cops TV show crew member shot by police while filming. A gunfight between a robbery suspect and police ended up killing a member of the Cops TV show crew at a Wendy's in Omaha, Nebraska on Tuesday evening. The victim, Bryce Dion, was an audio technician for the show. The suspect, Cortez Washington, was attempting an armed robbery at this Wendy's restaurant near 43rd and Dodge Streets at around 9 p.m. A nearby officer, Detective Darren Cunningham, called for backup from the Wendy's at around 9:20 p.m. 2 more officers rushed to the scene, with 2 members of the cops' film crew tagging along. As they entered, Washington opened fire before officers returned fire and struck Washington. During the gunfight, one of the police rounds hit Dion beneath the armpit, in an area unprotected by his bulletproof vest. Washington managed to flee the building after getting struck by the police, but later collapsed in the restaurant's parking lot. Police later discovered that Washington's gun was actually an airsoft pistol that fires plastic bullets. Both Dion and Washington were sent to hospital, but died later from their injuries.
Police in Nashville, Tennessee arrested one David Skylar White after he shot a woman sleeping in the apartment below him while he was playing with his gun on Sunday night. 22-year-old White was at home with his weed, amphetamines and a gun. He did what any moronic manchild would do and began playing with the loaded weapon before the thing suddenly went off. The slug passed through the floor and struck Heather Gautramont in the shoulder while she slept beside her husband and young child. According to police, the bullet caused significant damage and missed the baby by only a few feet. White was charged with reckless endangerment and drug possession. Gautramont was rushed to the Vanderbilt University Medical Center in a serious condition.
Dad killed by stray bullet at newborn's homecoming. Just 3 days after becoming a father, 33-year-old Stephen Justin Ayers gathered with friends and family in his Florida home, celebrating their bundle of joy. Little did he know, these were the last precious moments he would spend with his son. On that Tuesday evening, 62-year-old Charles Schisler, who lives in the house adjacent to Ayers, was drinking heavily. It's unclear why Schisler picked up his 9mm pistol by the trigger, but the gun went off. The bullet traveled more than 200 feet, through Schisler's window screen, through about 60 feet of woods, and then through the glass door at Ayers' house, before it struck Ayers, hitting him in the back of the head. He died instantly. Within minutes, police arrived on the scene. According to reports, Schisler was initially belligerent and uncooperative. But eventually, he confessed, saying the shooting was an accident and telling police where he had hid the gun. "The damn gun doesn't usually shoot," Schisler's arrest report quoted him saying. "You have to squeeze the hell out of the trigger to shoot it." Schisler was charged with manslaughter and possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. His blood alcohol level 4 hours after the shooting was .079. The legal limit for driving in Florida is .08. If he wasn't sober enough to operate a vehicle, it's safe to assume Schisler was in no condition to be toying around with a gun. Ayers and his wife worked side by side, performing in their band and teaching music lessons. They purchased their home less than a year ago to accommodate their growing family. He's going to be deeply missed, family friends told local media.
2-year-old accidentally shoots grandmother.
The owner of an improperly secured gun in Rock Hill, South Carolina may face charges after a toddler used it to shoot his own grandmother in the back. The Charlotte Observer reports the boy's grandmother and great-aunt picked him up from a relative's home earlier on Sunday afternoon. As they left and approached this intersection in Rock Hill, South Carolina, the young boy found something in the seat pocket in front of him. It was his great-aunt's .357 caliber revolver, unlocked and loaded. He took it out and somehow managed to pull the trigger. The bullet tore through the seat and struck his 40-year-old grandmother in the back. When the women turned around, they saw the boy holding the gun with both hands, and he began to cry. Investigators are working to decide what charges, if any, the child's great-aunt will face, as the weapon wasn't properly stored.
A tragic shooting death that occurred in Norristown, Pennsylvania, outside of Philly on Friday is being treated as accidental. Joseph Miller, a Pennsylvania state trooper, was cleaning his .45 caliber handgun while his children and wife, Joanne Miller, who was 22 weeks pregnant, were also home. Firearms can be accidentally discharged if handled improperly while cleaning. A common mistake while cleaning a semi-automatic handgun results in the gun remaining cocked and loaded when the user thinks the weapon is unloaded. The magazine should be removed first, then pull the slide to eject the round in the chamber. Reversing these steps leaves a bullet in the chamber and the hammer back, ready to fire. When Joseph Miller accidentally discharged his handgun, his wife was fatally struck in the head. Attempts to save the fetus by C-section also failed. Miller has been cooperating with investigators, and his 2 children have been placed in the care of a relative. Teen accidentally kills himself while taking a selfie with a gun. A 19-year-old man from Houston, Texas accidentally killed himself while taking selfies with a loaded gun. De Leon Alonzo Smith reportedly found a gun in his house and thought it would be cool to pose with it. Smith and an unidentified cousin posed with the gun inside his bedroom. The cousin then left to take a short break. Smith was unaware the gun was loaded. He pointed the gun to his throat and took a selfie when he accidentally pulled the trigger. The cousin, startled by the sound of the gunshot, ran back to check on Smith, but it was too late to save him. Smith's family is devastated and said that he was a fun-loving man who was about to start college this week. So, folks, and by folks we mean selfie-addicted folks, please assess the situation before taking that glorious selfie, because it may be your last.
A man accidentally shoots his wife, saving her life. No, really. You never imagine shooting someone would somehow save their life, but in a magical land called Ohio, it actually happened. Last Sunday, 77-year-old Boyd Ross was checking his 12-gauge shotgun out in the back room when it went off. The birdshot rounds sent pellets through the wall of the home, and one of them somehow had enough power to come out the other side and go through a chair, striking his 75-year-old wife Charlene in the back of her neck. Luckily, she was just grazed by it, but it still must have smarted something awful. When Charlene was checked out, the doctor noticed she had an irregular heartbeat. A pacemaker was prescribed immediately, and surgery performed a few days later, correcting her heartbeat. While this shot may have saved a life, so to speak, please store your guns properly unloaded for your safety, or else you might end up in one of our animations.
4 injured in bizarre shooting at a Manhattan wedding reception. A woman who attended a wedding at a fancy hotel in New York City left the reception with a unique wedding favor Saturday night. Wedding guests inside the Waldorf Astoria in Manhattan got more than they bargained for when one man's pistol accidentally went off inside his pocket around 7:30 p.m. Police say a bullet from the gun ricocheted off the marble floor. 3 wedding guests were treated for minor injuries from the debris. The bullet then grazed the side of a woman's head. She remained conscious but was taken to the hospital. According to local reports, the man handed the pistol off to his older brother after the incident. The New York Post reported on Sunday both men are facing charges for the accidental shooting. Investigators on Saturday night taped off the 5-star hotel, which has accommodated 8 decades of U.S. presidents.